This week in our collective heads, wanna put an old rumor to bed. Stereotype that you've all heard, how we're all just angry video game nerds. Most of us have actual jobs, kids and families and cats and dogs, yeah. This week in our collective heads, this week in our collective heads.
Welcome to TWIOCH, This Week in Our Canine Heads, where we discuss dogs, our favorite dogs, and dogs and things. Right, Patrick?
That's a dog. I love my dogs. My dogs are the best dogs. Fight me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not going to fight you. I mean, we have a show together, so
That's true.
That just seems counterproductive. Okay, so this is not This Week in Our Canine Heads. This is This Week in Our Collective Heads, because outside of Ein and your dogs, I don't actually have anything to contribute. I don't like dogs. Come at me. But we do have a bunch of news, and we're excited about that because now that the year has started, everything's kicked off. We're up and good to go. So
Yeah,
as always,
finally.
I'm joined by Patrick, who actually does know things about dogs.
I do.
But we're not going to talk about that. So as far as things that are back, backwards compatibility has returned, and I'm excited about that. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
I'm happy about it. Finally got some of these, which there was a lull for a while. I mean, this was every single week they were giving us backwards compatible games, and we like to give you show you guys these, because if you're not watching Major Nelson's Twitch feed, then you pretty much don't know. So if you're a fan of like Sniper Elite 2, then you're in luck, because that's backwards compatible. I don't know.
It is indeed. Is that the series where you get to like shoot people in the testicles and watch them explode, or is that there's two sniper games, and there's the one that has like the Mortal Kombat thing going, and then there's another sniper game, and I don't know which series this is.
I thought this was the kind like realistic sniper game. It's like Call of Duty, but you're a sniper kind of thing. I may be wrong. But
we don't actually know on that one. We do know it's a sniper game. And but you do know Far Cry 2.
Yes.
Because is Far Cry 2 still your favorite in that series?
No, 3.
3 is wonderful.
Blood Dragon was really fun, but
Blood Dragon was so much fun.
I gotta give that like a special place, because it's not a normal Far Cry game. It's an over the top, fun 80s, game, and it's wonderful.
It's also like the only joke game I've ever played it lasted for a good 8 hours, and the jokes stayed funny for those 8 hours, and that I would be perfectly content if they did another one of those, because like Ubisoft has a tendency to like they'll do some really really cool projects, and I'm like, yes, give me more of that, and they're like Assassin's Creed, and I'm like, well, I mean, I guess you got to do that, but like Child of Light and Blood Dragon and what was the World War I game? You know the one I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember the name.
Yeah, there's a World War I game that was really fantastic and had like
something Hearts.
Yeah, it's something Hearts. Kingdom Hearts, probably.
I think that's exactly what it is.
So we got that, and then we got Driver San Francisco, which that one is an interesting case, because that one's only available for download, not for purchase. Like you can, if you put the disc in, or if you own it digitally, then you can have it that way, but you can't actually buy it. And that's kind of interesting, because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time we've seen that, right?
It's the first time that I have noticed it. There may be other times, but I'll have to look and see if there's anything else that's not available for purchase digitally, because I know there are some games that aren't available for purchase digitally. Actually, like Two Worlds 2, I don't think is available digitally. I'll have to check, because that game holds a special place in my heart for being horrible but having so much potential, and I love it. I love what it could have been. Anyways,
And speaking of things with a lot of potential that you love, we got a trilogy of Magic games, Magic the Gathering. We got Magic 2013, Magic: The Gathering, and Magic 2014, Duels of the Planeswalkers.
Yes.
Which that was also the last card expansion that I played. So that's one that I think is pretty cool because CCGs are everywhere now, but Magic the Gathering is, at least to me, it's kind of the OG of card games.
Oh, it is.
I played it in real life, and I'm sure there were ones before that, but I didn't play them. So yeah, so they have continued to just keep knocking these out, and I'm starting to wonder, because now we're up in like the upper 300s. I'm trying to remember like how many games there were total for the system. Like the one, and this is the one, Major Nelson. I know that it's probably almost impossible, but Kingdoms of Amalur, like that's
I would love that.
That's the one that I really wish would come up, because it's, for those of us who played it, it was just really something special. And if you didn't play it and you have the ability, you have a PS3 sitting around and you're willing to turn that on, because I know turning on the PS3 is a bit of a nightmare. Yeah. But that game was really fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was. You know what also was fantastic was
What's
Fable
that,
2.
Patrick?
Fable 2.
Yes, it was.
I like Fable 2. Fable 2 is everything that Fable was supposed to be. And Fable 3, I don't really want to talk about. But I liked Fable 2. I wished... it's a Molyneux thing. So, if you go into it now, you probably will appreciate it. If you went into it then, you would have been overhyped. But I enjoyed the series. And speaking of that... Fable may be coming back.
I feel pretty confident saying that it's going to, because we try to be really cognizant of what we're giving to you, and we try not to give you anything unless it's actual news. And so, like, on a 1 to 5 scale of how hard I believe in this, even though it's not actually confirmed, I would put this at 5. I mean, this has come through enough sources that I feel comfortable saying this is an actual thing. And so we'll discuss it as if it's a thing.
Yeah.
And then whenever it gets actually announced, I don't know, maybe E3. We'll talk about it again, because Fable is such a great game, and like it's really fun to look at it and see, because I think without Fable, and you disagree if you like, but I think without Fable we don't get Infamous, and we don't get the Paragon and Renegade system as they showed up in Mass Effect, because this was one of the games that really gave you player choice. It was binary.
Yeah.
But it was player choice and allowed those decisions that you made to have a real impact. And I loved that. And that was a really fantastic thing. And the really sad thing about this for me is that Lionhead got shut down.
Yeah.
And then they brought this out, and they said that part of the reason that they had it, that they did it, was because they were like, oh hey, look, Horizon Zero Dawn is an open world game where you go and you shoot things and it's a single player, and people want to buy yes, we want single player games. Let us buy them. Let us give you money, please. If it's a quality game, we will buy it. And
If it's a quality game, we will give you our money, and that's been proven over and over and over again. You can make a mediocre multiplayer game, and people will give you their money for a little bit and then go away.
Yeah, and the reason that people were attached to Fable, like the world building. I'll go ahead and say it. The world building in Fable is not the best. It's kind of a flat surface level world, but your interactions with other characters were quality, and that was the reason that we kept coming back. So if you take that and you just throw it into another genre and you don't get to make player choice, single player, this is my story, that's not what we're looking for, and that's why Legends just didn't have the hype that an actual Fable game would have had. So we're really excited. Don't know if it's going to be a reboot. Like we said, it's not confirmed yet, so we don't have any details on it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what it is that they bring out. And I'm still outside of the Xbox ecosystem, so I'm still on the PlayStations and in a little bit Switch, but but yeah, this is an IP that Microsoft has that is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
I think that Microsoft has quite a few potential IPs they're not utilizing to their greatest potential, and Fable's been that one that's just been sitting. Fable is their Metroid, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's like everyone keeps saying, well, why don't we have another one of these? Because they're good games, and hopefully we'll get a good game out of this. Speaking of good games, if you play PC games, you may be in the camp of saying, why can't I resell this digital game that I bought?
Yeah, this is. I'm gonna file this under weird news. Robot Cash is a new system that's trying to allow reselling of games. GameStop hasn't been able to do it. Microsoft Digital hasn't been able to do it. Who else has tried? Like
those are the two that I can think of.
Okay, honestly, this is just kind of a weird random thing that showed up. I honestly don't recommend that you try this, because if Microsoft can't throw enough money at this to work, I find it highly unlikely that a smaller system would be able to do it. But it was just some weird news that I wanted to report on.
I don't think it's gonna work. I don't think it's gonna be beneficial for anyone. And there are a lot of people, you can read into a lot of people into why they think that it will or will not work from a business perspective, and I will tell you from a psychological perspective, there's a reason that A, that's not going to work, and B, that people have backlogs of Steam games that they never get around to.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's fine to have a backlog. Like right now I'm finishing up Horizon and Neo, and then I'm going to jump into Witcher, but then on May 25th, all of that goes to the back burner because I'm going to play Dark Souls finally. And I am so excited about that. We talked about that last week, but if you missed it, Dark Souls!
What I was getting into, though, is there's a psychological reason for both of these points. For the Steam backlog and for the fact that people won't digitally resell their games.
Yeah.
You have less of a cognitive connection to the games that you've purchased as opposed to a physical copy.
Yeah.
If you look at your physical games, there comes a time when you're looking at your catalog and you at your entertainment center or however you store your games, and you look at that and go, I think I can sell a couple of these. But you don't have the same connection when you look at a digital at digital, because we're humans and we don't understand. Even though we can be very, very smart when it comes to technology, the idea of reselling a digital product that isn't in your hands doesn't compute with our brains. And there's I can't remember the psychological term for it, but basically you won't value it the same way that you value a physical copy, and understanding that the value is still there and can be transferred. So that's your little psychological bit of the day as to understanding why your Steam backlog continues to fill, and you go, I don't have any games to play, even though you have a list of 300 games. That's why.
So speaking of games that I haven't played in a while, World of Warcraft is getting level scaling.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because it allows people to see or explore content that they might not be able to otherwise, and it's appealing on that level of being able to just see something and be like, I want to go explore the world, and like you can keep having new experiences, and it's a different way to view it than like the grind.
Yeah.
And so I'm really curious to see how this works, because I kind of get it, but at the same time I'm like, wait, that's a shared world. How are you gonna? And so they've detailed it. I'm curious to see how it works. So if you're still playing Warcraft, or if you're jumping back in, let us know in the comments what your experience is with level scaling and how well it works for you.
Yeah. So I'm actually looking at jumping back into World of Warcraft. Whitney's playing Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Okay.
But I don't know if she's really enjoying it as much as she did World of Warcraft. So I'm possibly jumping back in. If I jump in, it has to be with her, because otherwise I will be playing that game for hours and isolating myself. So if I jump in,
let us know in the comments, Patrick, what you think about level scaling.
Yeah. There are a couple other MMOs that did something similar, but only when you grouped with people. and it doesn't appear that that's how they're doing this, which bothers me, because that means that you can go to anywhere in Azeroth or any other place. You can go anywhere and you can keep up. And to me, I feel like it kind of breaks immersion when you're like, I'm a level 1 who has no equipment, and you go into a higher level area. I don't know. I'll see how this goes and see if it makes sense when you're playing. Other things that don't make sense is that there's another Aliens game coming out.
There is, and
I love Aliens. Good.
I think that Isolation could have worked if it had been half the length. And you and I, we've talked about this on a regular basis, but it's okay for games to be short. I will still pay full price for a shorter game if it's quality all the way through. And
I'd say Isolation's okay, but Colonial Marines is where the bad
Colonial
lingers.
Marines had its own issues. I think that the way that they approached development and publishing, like, I think they're a better developer than they are a publisher.
Oh, I agree.
And I think this bit them. And I mean, kind of the same thing happened with Duke Nukem, which is why I'm worried about Bulletstorm. But anyway, there's a new Alien game coming out from the new one.
Oh, the new one. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant the original.
No. I'm concerned about the next one that they're making, because the remaster. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So it's Cold Iron Studios, which is a new studio, and we'll see how it goes. But at this point, we don't really have a whole lot of news. We'll wait and see how it goes. But like you, I'm very much on the fence about a new Aliens IP, or not IP, but a new franchise, I guess. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, until they sell me on it, I will just be like, yep, that's a thing that exists, and move on.
Yeah.
So, speaking of people who should have moved on, there's a guy who was trolling a bunch of people on Twitch, and the Canadian government has actually started prosecution, which I think is amazing. And it's harassment, anti-Semitic comments, racism, and they have. I do have issues with the free speech element of it, but this guy's kind of a jerk. So I don't feel that bad.
I feel like you should be able to have free speech, but hate speech is to me is a different animal.
There's nothing productive about that.
There's nothing productive, and you can't say, oh well, you're stopping my free speech. I think to me, it's the same thing where it's like, where do your freedoms end?
Yeah, and where it ends is when you're advocating for harming of other people.
Yeah, harming of other people, and to me also. So, and I would consider that verbal abuse and physical abuse, because verbal abuse, if you're saying something from this is where it gets into the weird gray areas where it's like if you say something negative about like a stereotype, then I'm like, okay, are you joking? Are you not? But if you directly say, oh, that's because you're black or something like that, it's like, okay, come on, that's where you have this fine area of is it free speech or is it not? And it's when if the conversation goes into a negative area where people are complete hate speech and excuse the language, but shithole countries, that kind of bit, where I'm like, okay, that's not a freedom of speech thing at this point. You're not saying, oh, that area is horrible. You're insulting people. You're insulting cultures at that point. Yeah.
Speaking of insulting people, one of the Dallas Fuel, which is the Overwatch League team from Dallas, I would make some kind of comment about, yay, Dallas sports team, but this is not a woo situation, because one of the players who was actually on the bench during the match was making homophobic remarks, and initially he apologized on Twitter, and the person to whom he made the remarks, who is gay, he said that he should go, instead of smoking a big blunt, he should go smoke something else.
Yeah.
And so it was a very distasteful thing. And initially it was a thing where he apologized, the other team, and then the team itself, the team's owner, suspended him for one game, and Blizzard actually went ahead and fined him and suspended him for the remainder of this leg of the season, which I think is 4 matches. But at the either later on in this audio episode, or if you're watching on YouTube
on the
as a separate video, right, on the main quest this week, we're going to be talking about the Overwatch League, and we're going to be bringing in someone who's been following it much more closely than you or I have, because I've been watching some of the highlights and keeping up with the standings and stuff, and you are aware that it exists.
Yep.
I think that's
about as far as it is. I know what Overwatch is. I know how it's played, but
and so we're going to be bringing on Cameron, and he's going to tell us all about Overwatch League in the main quest. But this is a bit of news that we wanted to cover first.
The first thing that I thought when I read this was I thought of The Office. Do you remember the episode of The Office where Michael Scott? Okay, so there's an episode of The Office where Michael Scott, Steve Carell's character, finds out, or he says something homophobic, and he doesn't realize that he says something homophobic directed towards Oscar, who is gay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
Oscar is Oscar's in the closet at the time. He's in the closet for quite a while, and Michael's defense initially was, "Well, I didn't know you were gay. If you were gay, I wouldn't have said it." And immediately, that's what I thought of when I read this. Was like, does the joke is it's never okay.
Right.
It's not an okay comment if the guy was straight or gay. Because the first thing that I thought when I read this story was, did he know that he was gay? because it's this weird, this weird cognitive dissonance where, like, we as online gamer culture, we are very volatile sometimes, and we say some horrible things. I don't, but as a culture, online gaming has horrible things about mothers and all kinds of other things. And the first thing that I thought was, did he just say that because that's one of his insults that's in his pocket, because that's where his mind is? I don't know.
Yeah. Actually, interesting fact about the insult. So apparently the person who was insulted with the homophobic remark had taken the insulter's like one of his catchphrases and said, "Yeah, we rolled and smoked your team," and that was why he was mad, because 1, he was on the bench, and 2, the guy turned around his catchphrase and was like, "What you gonna do?" He was like, "I'm gonna say something homophobic," and he was like, "Oh, that's." Or to quote Brooklyn Nine-Nine, "Oh, no."
That's awesome. That is great. They turned it around on him.
Yeah. So speaking of things that are kind of disappointing and not great, though. Yeah. Dark Souls is not going to have cross-platform play, which is
for Switch. Yeah. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Well, it's not going to have cross-play across PC, or like it's just not going to have cross-platform play at all, as far as I knew.
Does it have cross-platform play PC to Xbox right now? Because I play it on both. Okay, so it just continues its Dark Ages idea of not having crossplay, which is irritating that this is not having crossplay. Monster Hunter isn't either. I'm having to make sure that for Monster Hunter that if people are considering buying it and have a PS4, I'm trying to get them to buy it on PS4, so that way I can play with you. Because I'm getting it on PS4 so I can play with Kevin. There's a few other people. I'm hoping to play that with my nephew if he enjoys it. In that case, he has an Xbox One and PS4, so he plays most of his online games on Xbox though. So I'm hoping if I start playing it and he wants and he likes it and wants to play it, that he'll understand, no, you have to play it here. Yeah.
That's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
We've been playing Fortnite though. We didn't get to do it every weekend. I'll say for the past couple weekends we play Fortnite, and we get in a party sometimes with his friends from school.
Nice.
So I'm the 33-year-old guy hanging out with a bunch of 10-year-olds, but like we're all like hanging out and having fun, and nobody. Like I treat them as individuals, you know, they're kids, but they're individuals, and I think that's why, like, someone joined the party and they were like, "Oh, Patrick's here!" Like they were excited because I treat them that way. Because
that's awesome.
You know, yeah, it's fun.
And see, I think that brief tangent, and then we'll get back to the news. Like, I think that's one of the things that we can do as older gamers is we can show younger gamers when they come into our games, we can be like, look, we can have a respectful community and still have fun. Like we don't have to have all this insult culture that's bringing forward, oh, you know, your mom or whatever, and just like there is a toxicity that sometimes crops up in gaming circles. We're aware of that, and basically our job is to just combat it by be cool, man.
Yeah. I will say
Cool.
I'm uber nice when I'm on there with them, and I will say that I will allow them to get certain positioning or kills. Like I'll try to encourage that, because at first I was like, okay, well, they may not be as skilled as me. Some of them are better than I am, some of them aren't, but I try to be really generous there to that, because otherwise I think because I'm older, they'll view it as like, oh, he's another adult, he's in charge, he's the boss. And
right.
That's not how it should be when you're playing online games.
You're part of a team.
Yeah.
And you want to be a team.
Yeah, we're playing squads.
So
Speaking
you
of
also
teams.
speaking of teams and squads and sheer randomness,
Yes.
Scribblenauts Showdown is coming out March 9th. It's gonna be out on all the things.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the trailer for this, because it was like flamethrower beats. Like it was just the escalation, and they said that they have 35,000 words that you can use. So if this is something that you're playing and you get stuck, try summoning Cthulhu. That usually works. But yeah, this is a fun series that's been going for a long time, and so Scribblenauts Showdown is coming out, and I'm excited about it because this had been on like 3DS and portable platforms for a long time, and now it's coming to all the things.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited about that. So I intend to pick this up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this looks like, because I've always enjoyed the concept, but I hadn't actually gotten a chance to play it because it wasn't on a platform that I used.
I've loved Snipper Clips, the unique, the humor, the puzzle solving, and the creativity within the puzzle solving.
You said Snipper Clips. This is.
Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. I love Scribblenauts because I do love Snipper Clips.
I know. I love both of those.
Yeah.
One actually having played it, and one that I think I would enjoy. Snipper Clips is awesome, though.
That was a Freudian slip because I was going to talk about Snipper Clips briefly, but no, I love Scribblenauts because to me, Scribblenauts takes what I like about like puzzle adventure games, where it's like, oh, this is a weird mashup thing that solved a problem, but in Scribblenauts, you are the weird thing that fixes the problem, as opposed to going, oh, I need a rubber chicken to give the guy who's cutting logs, and then I can get the fat plastic eye that can trade with the pirate. It's like, what?
Yeah, but you also play adventure games, so you're kind of used to that level of, sure, that's what the goat needed.
Some of them make sense. Monkey Island's the one that gets like really out there. But at the same time, Monkey Island's hilarious. So
Monkey Island is pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
So going from games that you love and you're a huge fan of to something that I really love, the next Final Fantasy 14 expansion has been kind of detailed, and they're focusing on bringing Final Fantasy VI into it, and that makes me so happy. Kefka is going to be a boss, and the Phantom Train is going to be a boss, and then there's like going to be other elements of Final Fantasy VI. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can play like some of Final Fantasy 14 without, like, there's like a demo version of it.
Yeah.
they've put Final Fantasy VI into it. So if I can go try it and see if it's something that I enjoy, I also have a little bit more time at home than I used to, and so it is my intention to see if I can check this out and see it, because I love the Phantom Train. I love Kefka as a villain. Kefka and Voss are from Far Cry 3 are two of the greatest insane villains in the history of games, or in the history of antagonists, honestly, because I understand where they're coming from, even though they're insane, and that is a very, very delicate and fine line to walk. And I think they did very well, and so I'm looking forward to seeing. Even if I don't get to that content in the actual game, I'm gonna watch some people that I know that play it. I know Owen plays it, so Owen, if you do that, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I know a couple people who play it, and I've heard from others that kind of like Star Wars Galaxies, you could play a lot of Final Fantasy XIV by yourself without really going through the main story, and you can do a lot of adventuring and playing without actually doing anything. So there's one of my friends, Heather, plays the game quite a lot and plays it socially, and she also plays side quests and like fetch quests and different things, and then every now and then I'll hear her post something to the effect of, I guess I'll do the main story now, or I guess I'll check out like I've been checking out the areas, I guess I'll do like the areas for new expansion, I guess I'll do some quests now, which is so opposite to me, because as soon as like a new expansion drops on an MMO, I'm like, I want to know what the story, I want to know why we're here, give me the context, let's have fun.
And the Final Fantasy XIV story really is amazing, and even more so because like with World of Warcraft, the world kind of evolves, and so like they're like when the Cataclysm happened, that was something that affected everything, and as new expansions come out, then there is kind of a story, but it's more about the world developing. And in Final Fantasy XIV, there is actually a legitimate story that you're going through with like main characters, and like once you like there are people I know who go dark on Final Fantasy XIV, a game they are actively playing until they've beaten the story content for each expansion.
Well, and that makes sense, because World of Warcraft, you are the character that is doing the things, which when you're playing with other people, it kind of breaks a little immersion, because there are a lot of things where you're like, oh, you're the chosen Death Knight, and then there's like, oh, but there's also these other chosen Death Knights,
and he's the chosen Death Knight, you're the chosen Death Knight, you're the chosen.
Basically, the story of that, very briefly, the story of that is like, you're one of the Death Knights that work for the Lich King, and you are an undead, and he's brought you up, but you have a rift and you turn against him, and you go to Azeroth, and they're like throwing tomatoes at you, and there's this very personal moment where you're like, I've breaking away from the person from my leader. I'm doing this for me. No one likes me. And then right after that cutscene is over, you're in Azeroth with a bunch of other Death Knights. So
do they also have tomato on them?
They don't, because apparently you automatically get cleaned up after cutscenes. Which there should have been a shower scene there.
Moving on. So Final Fantasy 15, staying in the Final Fantasy realm, we have the release date for the PC version of Final Fantasy 15, and it's the I think they call it the Royal version, or the Royal something. But anyway, this is a version that has the main game. It has all of the subquests with Ignis, Prompto, and Gladiolus. It has they've added some new content. Like I think it's chapter 9. You get on a boat, and it's like the classic video game. After this, you won't be able to return. Are you sure you want to board the boat?
Yeah.
And the answer is no. I want to go do all the fishing and the collecting and the side quests, and then I'll come back to the boat. I know I need to save the world, and I swear I will do that in just a minute. But I have to go help this old lady with her chickens.
I'm busy fishing in Lake Hylia.
Exactly. But so what they've added is there's as far as I can tell, there's not any new story content, but you're able to explore the world a little bit more. And where before the entire trip from the dock to the other city was a cutscene, now they've brought that in, and they're like, well, you can stop and fish if you want. The funny thing about this to me, though, is this is a $20 expansion, and it includes everything. You can't actually buy this content on its own.
Correct.
And it's not included in the season pass.
It is not included in the season pass, correct.
Which I think is kind of harsh for people who have been faithful about keeping up with it, or people who gave Square Enix money and they were like, yes, give us this thing. And this game has continued to evolve. I do like the fact that because PC players are getting it so much later than console players, that they're like, just have the game, all of the stuff that we did. And I appreciate that.
I think that to me, these kind of cases are special cases where if you're going to do something like that for PC, it should be gifted to everyone who got the season pass. It's the same thing that if you have Skyrim on PC, and when the Skyrim remastered edition came out, you got it. If you had the Skyrim Ultimate Edition, whatever, on PC, then you got it. You got the remaster automatically. And that's how it should be. You've already given them your money. You've given them your money, and they're updating everything for a different platform. Then it should come to the other platform as well. The goodies should be for everyone.
What he said.
Speaking of goodies for everyone, House of the Dead was a thing back in the day, and what I mean by House of the Dead, I don't mean the really bad zombie movie, the Ebola zombie movie. I mean the awesome. I mean the awesome arcade shooter, and it's coming back to
in Japan at least. And I really hope. I know that arcades are a much bigger thing in Japan, but if this comes to arcades in the US, I will make a special trip to the arcade to play this, because House of the Dead, and you're okay, Uwe Boll is not a good director, and it's objectively bad. Playing the House of the Dead games, like the story and the dialogue, they were awful, and we knew it at the time. But the gameplay itself was so much fun, and I really, really consistently enjoyed. Because I think there were 3 arcade games that came out.
I believe so.
And these are games that I don't mind. Like I will actually like load up a card, because that's I mean, if it's an arcade with new games, it's not a roll of quarters anymore like it was when I was growing up. It's I'll load up the card with like $15-20 and I'll be like, yes, I want to experience this game, just keep taking my money, and I will experience this as a whole.
Which is why I like places like Cidercade and Free Play Arcade, because you pay $10 or whatever, and then you get in and you play however much you want, and drink and eat and do whatever you want. What I like about this, though, is not only is it an arcade game, it is one of the new, more immersive arcade games. Unless I am wrong, it appears that this is that. No, never mind. I thought it was one that you get inside. It's not.
Okay.
But either way, that looks freaky and scary. And if I saw that in an arcade, I'd be very happy and scared.
I'd be like, ooh, I'm next.
I love those. I love those in Time Crisis, especially because of the gun movement. It's just fun.
It is.
But
so
we're talking about some rumors.
That is the end of the news. Now we have
talk about some rumors. Okay.
So before, at the top of the show, I talked about Fable and my confidence that Fable was a real thing. I said that on a 1 to 5 scale, that was like a 5. Here we have like a 3 or a 4. It seems that Incredibles 2 and DC Villains are getting Lego games, and this is something that's it looks like it's a thing. but this is also not as reliable as the other news, so that's why I tagged it on at the end. I think it would be a lot of fun to play a DC Villains game. The Batman Gotham games were not, for me at least, not nearly as much fun as the Lego Marvel ones. Lego Marvel Superheroes 1 and 2 were fantastic. So this is a rumor. That's why we're just kind of throwing it on as a tagline at the end, and when it actually gets announced, we'll update you on that. But it seems that there's at least a good possibility that Incredibles 2 is going to have a tie-in with a Lego game, and then there could be a DC Villains game that comes out too. So we will let you know about that whenever it shows up. And that is the news for this week. Let us know in the comments if we missed anything, and let us know if you want Kingdoms of Amalur to be backwards compatible. Tweet at Major Nelson and be like, please, and then tweet at the state of Rhode Island and ask them to do it, because they have that and they're probably not going to let it go.
That is the weirdest thing ever. Have fun, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching This Week in Our Collective Heads. Subscribe over here and click the bell, and that way you'll know about any new videos that we put up, because we put up a lot of gameplay, a lot of stories from games and stuff like that, and gameplay is down here.
Yeah, and you got more editorials and news stuff down here. Check it out.